All right, guys, welcome to lolz very special edition. A man whose name I feel like we've referenced on this show multiple times over the past year or so. It is, of course, professional sports bettor Rufus Peabody. Rufus, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you coming on. Brian and I have been talking a lot about sports betting lately. A lot of times we'll, be spitballing ideas, how things could get better. And we would often say, I'm sure Rufus has pondered all of these questions many, many a times.
Yeah, we're a little bit newbie in some of the, compared to Rufus anyways, and some of the sports betting stuff, but it should be good soundboard, hopefully, for some of the stuff we've been BSing about for about a year and a half, 2 years. So what do you guys want to start with?
Well, why don't I know your big thing. I of course saw the Peter Jennings hype video for joining Unabated. Why don't you tell people what's kind of going on with that, just to set the stage, because I don't know if I even fully understand what it is.
So yeah, first of all, that video is amazing. Captain Jack produced that and put it together, and it was fantastic. And Peter's a close friend of mine. Obviously, you guys know him from the DFS community and everything. I've gotten to know him over the last, I guess, three or 4 years. And when he I guess, I don't want to say became a free agent, but when he became a free agent, I've always wanted to work with him. And, I think he and I kind of share a lot in terms of sort of vision of sports betting content. He's obviously done a fantastic job in the DFS space, creating, fantasy labs. And, he definitely fills a niche in our company that we were missing. Someone that's a little bit of a better, I don't want to say salesperson, but like someone who's legitimately like able to enthusiastically get an idea out there. And, he's got, amazing connections. He's, I'm just really psyched to work with him. And I think we kind of share a vision in terms of what we sort of want to see happen in the space and sort of products we want to build. So he's a huge addition. We're couldn't be happier.
Yeah, we call Peter Jennings the mayor because he's connected with everyone. He knows how to get things done. So yeah, that definitely seems like a great addition. And what is Unabated? It looks like it, you guys have tools, but then I also know, was it the sports betting coalition? Like, have you been merging kind of some of these things under the Unabated umbrella?
So Massey Peabody is actually under the Unabated umbrella. So the American, American Bettors Coalition.
That's what I was.
That was sort of an idea that I had and that Captain Jack had, and it never really came to fruition. The pandemic happened, and suddenly, it was going to be really hard to get funding. We also realized that we're not really good business people. And I mean, it would have been a nonprofit, but, we would have been, over our heads. And it's still, consumer protection is still something I really, really am passionate about. But Unabated is Unabated is going to definitely have an element of that. Like, education is a huge part of it, but I would say it's a betting tools and education site. I'm really, really bad at the elevator pitch, and Captain Jack's really good at it. I generally just start rambling. But we're going to provide tools to sort of help you. I don't want to say be a better bettor, because I feel like Spanky's trademarked that, but to be a more intelligent bettor and to sort of guide you along that path to becoming a sharper bettor. And so we're not giving you answers as much as we're giving you the tools to sort of answer the questions that you have. And that's kind of the DNA of the site. And certainly we have some things that are more, I guess answers in a way. Like we have what we call sort of betting tools, which are, we have an odds screen, which I guess integrates with these betting tools. So you can say, what's better, -3, -115, or a money line of -147, and just because that's something that I find really useful when I'm betting myself, because, it's hard to have all that stuff memorized, but most of the stuff, we're going to be building a lot of products that are a lot more customizable going forward.
A lot of the stuff on there reminds me of the old SBR forum calculator. You remember those? I don't know if you ever.
Yeah, I remember those.
And they're like, I think they're so old, none of them are updated with modern data. Are you going to have, because it's when you say not going to give you the answers, it's kind of because in the DFS world, the sites kind of give you the answers, I guess, or at least people think they're getting the answers, because they're getting projections and ownership projections. And it's like with that, it's like you could do a whole bunch of stuff. Is there not gonna give you the answers? Is there gonna be anything like that? So I mean, not picks, but are you gonna be able to like maybe build a simulator? Because I see you have a simulation on here, but maybe a little more flexible where you can put in player props or anything like that. Is it you're gonna build that out to make it more user friendly? So like someone like me could put my stuff in there and then run it.
Exactly. I mean, so the first thing built was this NFL simulator, which basically simulates the full NFL season, or I guess from whatever point we are at the season onwards. And you can put in your own power ratings or use a lot of sort of publicly available canned rating systems we had in there. And that, I think the strength of that was it really accounted for dynamic uncertainty well. You could customize quarterback injury probability, all this other stuff to sort of really be able to account for the sources of variance and how a team is going to end up, and just sort of the range of outcomes. But we also built a NFL prop simulator. So you could put in your projections. You could say, I have a wide receiver projected for 6.7 receptions, 83.2 receiving yards. What does that distribution look like? And so that was for sort of a standard, receiver. I can't do the math in my head on what that yards per catch is, but it's simulating at a reception level, and based off of a wide receiver that is at that, in that range. Obviously there's a difference between you could have two players with the same yards per reception projection, but very different, route trees and, variance in that. So down the line, we're going to sort of integrate that with projections and more player specific stuff. We're working on something for the NBA for that as well. So yes, that's exactly what we're planning on doing, having very customizable things where you can bring your own projections in and just help you better, do these, I guess, build products that make it easier for you to quantify, all these things that you sort of need to, if you're playing DFS or betting on props or just, betting sports in general, I guess.
How do you, because I do think for sports betting, obviously tools make so much sense and can really make the user experience, whether with line shopping and all of the things you're describing to make people sharper sports bettors. How do you think about where sports betting content fits into that? Because that's a thing Brian and I talk about a lot, how hard it is to do good sports betting content that isn't just selling picks. I mean, Brian and I kind of refer to the show as almost like a DFS or sports betting lifestyle show. I'm guessing that's kind of how you would describe Bet the Process, which is a great show. But how do you think about, how do you do this content well?
It's really hard. I mean, I completely agree that it's hard to figure out what sports betting content is that can be both valuable, but also, I don't want to say scalable, but also not picks, because everybody wants picks, but at the same time, picks, you give them out. If they're good, they lose their value. It's to me, it's not that interesting. I don't enjoy giving out picks anyway. So it's tough. I think educational thing is a big part of it. I think we're going to have a lot of data-driven articles. We have an awesome stable of writers that are starting to produce content around different sports, like a lot of things in sort of how to build models. But it's, as you said, it's it's difficult. Clearly, it's Unabated is not going to be like Bet the Process in that regard, where we're clearly targeting. We're certainly less of a lifestyle and more of a brand, I guess, and more of a sort of actionable tools, actionable educational information. But I mean, it's something that's going to evolve for sure. But if you have any suggestions, I'm open to them.
I think for NBA, you could do something fun, because NBA, the information is changing so fast. It would be kind of cool to have a professional sports bettor live on stream an hour before the game, once a week or something. I don't know if that's giving away too much edge for that guy, but that would be fun. Okay, I know this is where the minutes are going to go here, et cetera, something like that, where you're not giving out picks, really. You're not hand holding, but it could be a nice hour of fun. And that's the DFS worlds. That's their highest views, I think. Pete, correct me if I'm wrong, is those live before locks. They can get up to, 3,000 live concurrence and stuff like that. And even NBA pre-lock shows, you could kind of go over, you could kind of make that a little bit fun too, because there's a lot of question marks in what's going to happen. A PGA show could be fun. I think a PGA show could be fun, especially for you, Rufus. But I mean, like I said, we've been talking about this for 2 years. Like it's pretty boring. It's, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, here's how you price a prop. It's like, wow, that's not fun content.
This is what my model says. See, I think DFS content is far more interesting, and I mean, just because of the game theoretic aspect, you don't have that in regular sports betting. And so I think that's why you can have projections, and yet you're still not giving the answer in a way. Different people can utilize them in different ways. And you can create all sorts of narratives, the whole ownership projections. I mean, I think DFS is far, far more fascinating in terms of, from a content perspective.
Yeah. And I felt that firsthand. Like, I love doing my DFS streams on Sunday morning. It feels like you have this puzzle piece. There's all these different, decision trees you can go down. You can build logical lineups with any one specific player if you're hell bent on playing that player. Like, there's so much more that goes to it then. Whereas when I do sports betting content, like, I always feel dirty sharing a pick slip or being like, this is the play I'm on. Even if I give a logical reason, it still just feels so binary and uninteresting to me.
Well, the thing is, you can create a narrative for both sides of a pick. You run a model, you don't know. I don't know why I like a particular golfer on a given week. I can kind of go in there and sort of guess, but I mean, the answer is because, the market undervalues him relative to my model, right? But
show's over.
But the thing is, you can totally come up with a narrative that on both sides of it. But the thing is, that's narrative sell. I mean, we think of things in stories. Nobody wants to hear, oh, I have this number at 12.3. So
Spanky says, like, the best touts can sell both sides. That's who the best touts are. He said today on his show, I listened to
the best touts are good salesmen.
Yeah, for sure. That, I mean, it's like a debate club. Like, you can argue both sides of the debate, and then that means you're the best debater. But Spanky said on his show today, he had the BetMGM CEO or whatever, the sportsbook CEO on his show. It probably came out a couple days ago, but I just listened to it. And what Pete just said, like, what he feels dirty giving out picks. Like, I have a whole different take on gambling than what I hear out of a lot of people. Everyone has this throat clear of gambling addiction is something really big and we have to worry about. You can't give out picks because people are stupid and stuff like that. And in my view, I just think gambling's entertainment. And you don't expect money when you go to make money when you go see a movie, and it might suck. You might lose and hate it. And you lost your $20 or $50 if you have a date and drinks and stuff like that. And so value subjective, and a whole bunch of people are into a whole bunch of weird things, and that's none of my business. So if you want to give out picks, like we've talked about in this show, sometimes you bet the opposite of the guy because he sucks, or you're betting with your buddies. Like, I have a chat group with my friends, my brother, when we have all these horrible picks, right? Like, I'm a professional gambler and I do stupid picks, once a week. It's not for much, right? That just outside of anything that I can handle, like even sides and totals where I know I'm a dog, but it's fun if you're hanging out and having a few beers and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so the guilt people feel, I would push back on that. And if you're going to do content on it, I wouldn't feel so guilty. And the gambling addiction numbers are a lot lower if you look into the data than most people think. And we've did a show on it once. They're comparable to kleptomania rates and stuff like that. And we don't shut down. Right. The Macy's isn't we got to really concern ourselves with the kleptomaniacs. You know what I mean? I don't know if we should advertise on the Super Bowl. No, they don't give a shit. Right. And the rate, and it depends on how you define these things. Drico in our Discord had a study a couple days ago. We're in Ireland, where he's from. There was 12,000. They diagnosed 12,000 severe sports betting gambleholics, and it was 0.1% of the population or something like that. It's very small, and that was that's much lower than most of the studies I see, but it's even the highest ones are still pretty low compared to a lot of problems people have in society. If you talk about eating and and all sorts of different things. And so like I just don't really like going down that road. Like I feel like it's used against us in terms of regulation and making it illegal and holding us down than it is actually helping people. I've worked in politics, for a few years, and I know for a fact, like a lot of times when they use these things, it's from the lobbyists, the casinos, or somebody else who's trying to shut down poker or DFS. They use it when it's in their benefit and to keep out competition. And it really has nothing to do with helping people. So like perpetuating that is just, I don't think it's very helpful from our side. I know that was a long rant, but I don't know if you have any thoughts on it. I'd love to hear it.
I'll call it the Sheldon Adelson argument, huh? Like online gambling is awful. People need to come to my casino.
Exactly.
No, I agree with that. I think part of it is just the way, to me, the issue is sort of how disingenuous the marketing can be. It's marketing the lottery payout aspects of it. And, in reality, like I have a lot of issues with it, I guess, but in reality, if you're actually good at this and a winning better, you're going to get limited and not be able to do that. I think that part's disingenuous, but I think that the marketing of sort of high hold products, sort of huge multi-way markets, one-way markets where you can't bet no on something, things like that are just, they are fairly exploitative. And, of course books should be able to offer them, but I think that, if you want sort of a sustainably successful, betting space in the US, I think, if you think, like, I guess compare it to another industry, like entertainment products, going to the movies, if you had to pay $100 every time you went to the movies or something, and you got kicked out halfway through the movie half the time, like you're not going to want to, you're not going to want to go back to the movie theater. You're totally cool to go do that. But I think part of it is making it a fun entertainment experience where people feel like they have a chance to win. And, you're not just raked over the coals. But sorry, this is actually less about, I've kind of, gone on a tangent away from the problem gambling. I don't know how you define problem gambler exactly. I think that there are, the issue to me, and I know, like in Nevada, like having been a bettor in Nevada for many years, before legalization elsewhere, you can only deposit in sports books physically with cash, which is very difficult. But at the same time, if you can deposit with a credit card, max out a credit card, I think it just essentially puts the whole thing on steroids and makes it possible to have to lose a lot of money that you don't actually even have for certain people. And so, I think that's an issue. But at the same time, for me, like, selfishly, all the sort of the KYC AML stuff is sort of an annoyance. And like, as someone that is betting larger amounts of money and wants to be able to move money pretty easily, it's more difficult. So, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out though. But I do agree that I do agree that casinos do use that as a guise
for sure
for other things to try to limit competition among other things.
Yeah. You don't think some of the gambling addiction is going to get away around KYC, right? Like this is a worldwide market. Like we have a professional sports bettor in front of us, and it's been illegal to bet in most of your adult life in the whole country. You know what I mean? Besides Vegas. So like, it's clearly you can get around it, especially with online and these gambling studies that are done too. They're done in countries that have had legal gambling for ever, essentially, right? So it's not just the example of Vegas is not, a singular example that we have to like just look at. And I was thinking you were going to say in Vegas, like you just see all these gambling, like maybe you see a lot more gambling addiction too. And it's like, yeah, well, I guess if you go to a bar, you can probably see a lot more alcoholics too. It's kind of like a bias, a survivorship bias or whatever the outcome in that model. And I'm trying to go back to like your first point too, was I had something to say because you went before the gambling addiction. What was your comment on?
Oh, the way sports books are marketing.
Yeah. So you could also have you could hold these two thoughts and not be contradictory, right? You could say like, I don't think they should market that way. I don't think they should limit, but also gambling is entertainment, value subjective. And I'm not going to use our enemies' talking points every day in my show and on my website. And even though I know it's a problem and I feel bad for those 12,000 people in Ireland, and as I feel bad for the kleptomaniacs who go to jail or whatever, like, I'm not going to use my enemy's talking points to hurt, what I do and what I value and what I find fun. But the limiting thing, you made the example of the movie theater. Okay. If let's say the movie theater started doing that, kicking people out halfway through the show, what would happen to those movie theaters? They would go under instantly, right? I mean, they would be seriously, like in a month, they would be gone. There's a reason sports books don't go under. And it's because their involvement with the government and limiting competition and using these talking points.
It's because booking bets is really easy. I mean, doing it really well is difficult, I guess. It's one of those things where the first 90% of it is really easy. The last 10% is harder, getting that 10% right. But there's a reason. I've known a lot of dumb bookies in my life.
Yeah. Well, on that note, historical anomalies in the chat. He's coming. He wants the alpha. He says, since you've worked on both sides, setting the lines and doing the betting, is there any secret alpha that the books would rather the general public does not know? Or is that 10% you're describing? Is it sometimes the things the books don't know themselves?
So I've not, like, when I was at LVSC, I was doing some statistical analysis and stuff, but I wasn't directly setting lines. So I know people on the other side of the counter and everything. I have good relationships, but I've never actually seen, exactly how it works on a day-to-day basis. So, I don't think there's any sort of secrets there. I mean, I think it's, all these books have their own algorithms trying to figure out who's sharp and who's not, and how much to move lines based on certain people's action. It's not rocket science. It's just like I'm handicapping a game, they're handicapping the handicappers.
That is a good name for a sportsbook podcast, though.
It's not
Alpha,
rocket science.
The secret alpha, seeking alpha. It's not anything like that.
I mean, that's every single spaces at the top of my Twitter feed is some NFT alpha spaces. So everyone wants alpha these days, Rufus.
Yeah.
Are you? I did a podcast with David Manick last week, and we talked about, like, if we were going to join any company, it would have to have some sort of crypto element in it, one way or another. Like whether they payment processing in crypto, some sort of NFT thing for fun. Are you guys? I know you're into crypto. Are you into NFTs? Are you guys thinking of doing any of that stuff?
So Peter actually has Lucky Trader, which is doing great in the NFT space. I don't want to say never. I don't know. I mean, that it's certainly, NFTs are not my bread and butter. As someone who's been in the gambling space for a while, obviously I deal with crypto just for functional reasons. I mean, it's just practically useful. I do invest in crypto as well, but I'm not an NFT investor really. And so it's sort of I'm out of my element talking about it.
I'm curious though, if you have thoughts, like you said, Bitcoin being functional for you as a sports bettor. I mean, that was my first experience with it too, was just trying to get it on and off offshore accounts. And I was like, oh, this actually makes things easy. And I do think it's especially relevant right now with just what's going on in Canada and kind of the overreach with stuff. I mean, with this kind of idea of a freedom to transact as it pertains to you being a sports bettor, is that something you think about or want to protect against in case, things in the States ever got, bad and it was harder for you to move your money around?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think it was like in 2010, one of my business partners got a check from an offshore sports book, and it went through some company in Canada. And so it didn't even say it came from, I don't even remember what sports book it was. He cashes it, and the next day, Homeland Security people showed up at his house, and he was like, I'm just a sports bettor. Like, here's a letter from my lawyer. I'm not doing anything illegal. Like, if I am, please let me know. I've been, but it just is it was so difficult before crypto really. And so I think, clearly it is, clearly there are nefarious use cases for, yes, you're moving money around without having, without doing any sort of KYC or AML stuff. But it's just easier, right? It's the same reason that I don't keep, like, if I have cash that I need to use, rather than putting it all like in my bank and going and withdrawing it when I need it. For example, for betting on the Super Bowl in Vegas, like I had, hundreds of thousands of dollars that I needed to bet, or that I wanted to bet and did bet. And, it's a lot easier to put it like in a safe deposit box or something like that. Because if I've gone to the bank before and been like, I want to withdraw 150,000, and they're like, okay, we can get that to you in 2 weeks. And I'm just like, I kind of need it now. So it's just, I mean, and I think that's why, I mean, obviously this isn't my specialty, like the crypto stuff, but I mean, I think that's why it's so necessary though. I mean, and right, why the traditional financial institutions are hopefully going to change the way they operate.
Definitely. Real quick, I believe I heard you mention you're going to be in Montana on the podcast, but Corey does want to know if you are living in a ski resort. It's almost like too picturesque, the Montana skyline behind you right now.
I am in Montana. I'm in Belgrade, Montana. I'm not living in a ski resort. I'm a 30-minute drive from Bridger and an hour from Big Sky, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful up here. I'm here for a month and just kind of, I mean, it is negative 15 degrees outside right now. So, but it's really pretty to look at from the inside.
I would also, though, it seems like you packed your podcast setup because you got your good mic. That's not a Montana Airbnb or cam, I should say, that you got going there. You got the good stuff. Well,
I have a camera because my laptop's camera stopped working like 2 years ago, and I've never taken the computer in though, because I was like, I can't be without it for a few days if they have to fix it. So I just have an external camera hookup. It's really inconvenient, but finally this new laptop I ordered got here, and so I'm looking forward to setting that up this week.
There you go.
I'm really lazy. I mean, I got a new phone 3 months ago and just set it up yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, it's those things we put on our to-do list, and then you just stare at them for months and months and months and never get to them. Definitely
so you're a step ahead. You have a to-do list.
I do, but what I found is there's like I have my to-do list, which I won't do stuff on there. If I actually put things on my calendar and schedule things on my to-do list on my calendar, I will do it. But the to-do list is just completely hypothetical.
It's like the reminders on my phone. It's like reminder to meditate. Whoop. It's just the new process of me just flipping that reminder off, not me actually doing it.
Yeah.
It's like the software update on your computer. Remind me tomorrow every single time.
2 a.m.
I wanted to get to a couple of some of the questions we got in the Discord.
Talk about practical sports betting too. What do you think? You want to do that first? You want to do?
Yeah, no, go for it. Yeah, I think some of these dovetail with that as well.
So there's a big difference between, obviously, this is Captain Obvious here, between like me sports betting and Rufus sports betting. So like I just bet my prop. Well, here,
right, you tell me if I'm wrong. Props. You're doing projections. You have a process for that. It's data driven. Like
not that portion. I'm not talking about that. So like I'm talking about getting down. So like I bet the sites that are legal here in Illinois. And then I've been limited on I don't know, most of them. And that's it for me pretty much. You know what I mean? Like, and once they're all gone, I'm kind of out of luck. And I could go down the like the Bitcoin sites and the offshores and the little more riskier ones and stuff like that. But like I don't want to. First of all, because DFS is my main thing anyway, so it's not worth my time. Mm-hmm. So, but for you get down, you have like a partner who gets down for you and you do it, right? I'm not like giving away the farm here, right?
So I have a business partner, and then we have lots of betting partners as well. So it's, in a way, it's not exactly the Spanky model, but it incorporates some of that in the fact that, we have, partner with people, in the UK and Ireland, so that we can get access to those markets, and we have a profit share, and we pay trading costs, and we have credit accounts at some of these big offshore books, which are nice. It's kind of just it's always changing. It really is. It's now we have betting partners in U.S. states as well, but I don't do as much with the sort of the paperhead stuff, but that's just how it is right now. It's easier, but I don't know. It's constantly evolving.
So I'm thinking about like your average bettor, your unabated subscriber. Like, okay, they're going to come into it below, let's just say it below my level. So they're going to have to learn how to do some projections at least or something. They're going to have to learn how to price. They're going to, and then they're going to get to that level. Then they're going to get some money down. Then they're probably going to get limited. Then what?
Get more outs. I don't know. I mean,
right? Because isn't that like where the divide between us? Besides, you could do sides and totals, and I can't come close to that. But like, is that big? You know what I mean? I'm actually, where's my camera here? You know, it's huge because I don't want to get that. Like, is there a space for, like, I've thought I had some ideas off stream where like guys can get together and get, maybe start their own little syndicate, right? And getting outs from people. Maybe you could use a DAO. We've had a show on this. I know you're not totally into NFTs and that type of stuff, but maybe like you could even fundraise for yourself through a DAO or something like that. I'm just spitballing here, but like there is something, you got to do something, like if you want to keep betting.
I had this idea for sort of what I call the Spanky Exchange, where you get whales, people that can bet big in these legal sports books. They can sort of sharp to to work with, and sharp can play, and they figure out their own. I mean, their own arrangement and everything. But I mean, I just thought the idea of, I guess, having a marketplace for that. That's not something I'm planning on actually building right now. But I do think that I think that the real reason to get betting partners is about scaling. It's about being able to bet more than I would be able to otherwise. I mean, I think if I was betting small, it would just be about having a few good outs that, so I can price shop. There are solid ones, like Bet Online, Bookmaker. I mean, if you're not in the US, Pinnacle. There's some other ones as well. Like, I mean, I think as long as you're not doing anything shady, there are plenty of offshore sites that you can bet at until they limit you. And I think there's ways to not get limited. I think that's part of the art. There's ways to not get limited at US books as well. I mean, if you're going to be chasing steam and stuff like that, betting right after there's beating the book to player injury news for basketball, stuff like that, they're clearly not going to have as much tolerance for your action versus if you're, I guess, just beating them with your own handicapping and stuff like that. But obviously that's a harder way to win generally as well. There's a threshold.
So
there's more. Yeah.
No, I'm curious about that, because I would have just assumed that their algorithms were just kind of looking at your overall profit, and if you're beating them consistently, but you're saying that their data might be able to splice out as granular and be able to tell that you're beating them to the punch on news and not necessarily beating them on obscure prop bets or whatever.
I mean, I think prop bets, live bets, that kind of thing will certainly flag you, but I think it's about getting good closing line value. That's okay. I mean, that's the way books judge this, or at least that's the way they should be judging it. I think their algorithms are looking at that.
The BetGM guy said on Spanky's pod too that they're looking for multi-accounts, and I could see in the kind of the new DFS setup, like Right Angle Sports does, where they'll have a bet, prop bets in DFS, obviously, and they'll line it up, and then everyone bets at once, so everyone can get it in. I could see that algorithm that BetMGM has just limiting regular guys who are doing that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because they're not working with these other people, or like Adam Levitan's props or something that he released this year, things like that. He was moving the prop markets. It's
exactly.
Yeah, I think that's why I think a lot of these algorithms are making a critical mistake, and they're actually limiting a lot of people that are not going to be long-term winners. And maybe they have a few sharp bets they're placing, with Right Angle Sports or something, but they're probably going to be giving it back in other areas.
Yeah. One question that I got from Justin Freeman from Run the Sims, he said he would love to know your thoughts on the Kelly Criterion, or whether the game is simply getting down as much action as possible on every plus EV bet you can find, which obviously, ties into, not getting down too much that you're going to get yourself flagged.
So I haven't really thought a lot about the Kelly Criterion in years. It's something that I actually did utilize extensively when I was sort of getting started, just because I didn't want to overexpose myself. And I used a Kelly multiplier. I used like a quarter Kelly. And the other thing is, defining your bankroll is really difficult. Like, I have no idea how I define my bankroll right now. I have a lot I can get down in credit. I guess I define it as like my sort of semi-liquid net worth. I don't know, but I think certainly if you're a smaller bettor, it's definitely useful to use to make sure that you're not overbetting your bankroll. But using full Kelly is playing with fire. I would never do that because you have to be able to the problem is you need to be able to quantify your edge,
right,
to utilize it well. I mean, it's so useful in something like blackjack because your edge is fairly easy to quantify there. It's a closed system, but just even if that this has been your edge in the past, and that let's say you're hitting 50, you're returning 50% of your theoretical, like that may not continue. So
yeah, can I?
I've always have been very conservative. Yeah.
Sorry, you broke up there. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to echo that. Same thing with DFS. We say on this show, almost verbatim. People they'll plug their DFS results in the Roto Tracker, and then it'll say, I am this, I have this much EV or whatever. And it's like, okay, then I should enter everything. It's like, no, you probably shouldn't. Like, you gotta in every season things are different. You don't know if the competition's the same. You don't know if during COVID things were different than before COVID. So full Kelly's aggressive anyways for just generally speaking, at least back when I was using it. Knowing your edge is a lot tougher. And the reason I'm saying this because I hear it on a lot of DFS podcasts. Like, well, what's your edge? What's your edge? Is like, you guys don't know what your edge is. I don't think you really do.
No, I mean, especially if you're entering these big GPPs where, you could be, I mean, what most of the equity comes from winning, getting first or second. Right. And so it's, you can, I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's probably a lot of people that are considered DFS pros, that are considered, DFS winning players that have just gotten lucky. They've hit a few big ones or even one big one. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it's the amount, I guess I would guess it just takes a lot longer to really have a really good sense if someone's actually a winner or not, or to quantify their edge, right? It's
not a 50-50. It's not a sports bet. You're against 30,000 people, like tomorrow's golf is 50 some thousand. And it's getting bigger. Golf is getting bigger.
Well, that's something I've asked Brian before too, because I know, Brian is always working to tweak and improve his model for DFS and kind of trying to know when do you let things ride because it's just variance, or when do you worry that there's actually a fundamental flaw with your process or the meta of the games have changed. I know you obviously work with models for a lot of your sports betting. How do you think through that idea of getting a large enough sample size, but also being reactive to new trends and data points?
It's tough. It is tough to know. You're going to have bumps and bruises along the way. That's natural. But I think that when things are going poorly, at least for me, that's what sort of inspires me to work harder and sort of to delve into my process and sort of see if there's anything wrong that I'm missing, versus when things are going well, you're just on cruise control. I don't think, it's kind of like life, right? You grow through adversity. I think that's, big jumps you make happen when, as a result of something bad. And so I think that's been sort of adaptive for me, but, I've had a losing start to the year for golf this year. I have a few things on my to-do list that I kind of want to tackle in terms of some stuff with updating round projections and things like that. But it's about having time to do it too. That's the other problem. But I think that clearly there are lots of leading indicators of success. Like if you're still getting good closing line value and things like that. I mean that would say that your process is pretty good versus, if you were getting closing line value and suddenly you're not, then I would certainly be concerned.
Yeah. Do you relish those challenges, or when you think something might be changing and you go and be like, hey, this might be the frontier of a new edge? Or do you wish you could just put it in cruise control, whatever your ROI is on a good year, and just ski in Montana?
It's a good question. I feel like there's times when I want the latter and times when I want the former. I can't work as hard as I used to.
It's just you don't have that hunger to kind of tackle new things quite as much.
I have the ideas, but it's like I don't have I have a lot going on, so I just don't have the time to grind as much.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I tease Brian for never taking vacations. He finally took a nice vacation here in this past month. You're looking refreshed and rejuvenated, Brian.
Brian, where'd you go?
Florida.
Nice.
Like St. Pete area, kind of Tampa area.
How long had it been since you'd taken a vacation?
I don't know. Like that by I don't know, years, long time.
I didn't take a vacation probably from 2009 through 2019. I think Burning Man 2019 was the first vacation I took in 10 years, and it was incredibly refreshing, restorative, and I came back motivated.
Nice. I came back hungover.
One other thing I wanted to ask you, and I'm sure you get asked this a lot too, is how you think of the future of sports betting. And I know you had an experience with the sports betting competition that DraftKings put on, but thinking through the lens of peer-to-peer sports betting, because whenever we're kind of talking through things, it always seems like pie in the sky, hypothetical, like that would be the ideal version of sports betting. Do you think that will ever become a reality, or as you experienced, are there just too many kind of structural flaws to making that work?
You're talking about the Sports Betting National Championship?
That, and just peer-to-peer sports betting in general.
I mean, I think it was a fantastic concept. I loved it. I think I thought there were more issues with collusion, and then upon taking a sort of a closer look at it and kind of running some simulations, I kind of realized that actually I don't think collusion is as big an issue as I thought there. But I think, obviously, if that concept has a ton of promise, it just they need to execute it well from a tech perspective. I clearly do think the future of sports betting, there's going to be a lot more peer-to-peer stuff. I'm excited for exchanges. I'm an advisor for Sport Trade. They're going to be launching in New Jersey, and it was just announced, I think today or yesterday, a few other states they're going to be launching in later this year and early next year. So I'm hopeful for that because, from my perspective, it allows me to get down more money in a way that's sort of like pseudo-anonymous, where I'm not, I'm not going to leave the same sort of imprint in the market. And it also allows me to seed markets and to sort of scale things in a way, assuming there's liquidity there. So, to me, it just makes too much economic sense for it not to happen. But there are people that believe it, that do not believe exchanges and sort of the peer-to-peer thing will be the future. We'll see, right?
I mean, do you get would you like to live in a world where there's a sports betting equivalent to, Levitan will post his head-to-heads, and because he's Adam Levitan, people want to play him and they'll scoop his head-to-heads, and they're not working as hard. They don't know the cash game stuff as well as he does, and he's getting it in good. I mean, do you wish there was a sports betting equivalent of that where people could scoop your action, your lines?
I've never thought about it like that. I don't know why anybody would want to. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say that, but I mean, I think that, I'd be wanting to play the worst people possible, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to go
subjective.
Levitan and anything fantasy related.
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to think how that would look for the peer-to-peer stuff. Cause you were mentioning you would have to probably be more anonymous, but the Levitan thing's an interesting example where it's like people know he's really good. And yet, because it's fun for them, almost on an entertainment factor, they want to play against him so they can show their head-to-head versus Adam.
So I think games like Calcutta's, I think having more of these sort of creative, different games, not just regular sports betting, but we've done these Calcuttas and I've gotten destroyed in them last year in golf, but for Bet the Process. And I think those types of things are just really fun. It blends, sports betting, game theory, and so I think you'll see more of those types of things, just sort of different games, and I'm sure there'll be things out there that I haven't thought of, and that it'll be fun to sort of evaluate.
Yeah, that's why we need competition, is because the things we can't think of will pop up and come from that. If you remember the old Full Tilt poker site. When a pro, even good ones, Phil Ivey would have to play the lower limits, for marketing purposes. Mm-hmm. the line would fill 200 deep to get on that table because everyone wants to play against Phil Ivey. So I think you'd be surprised if you started posting as Rufus Peabody on some exchange, you'd pick up some action just from people wanting to have fun.
I'm no Phil Ivey though, so I think if some celebrity, it's like of course you'd want to play with them for the story.
What I know. Do you gamble when you're out on the golf course? Will you get down some good action there, or is that just more casual?
More casual. I think the most I've ever won or lost in a round is a few $100.
Okay.
I'm not.
Right.
Yeah.
Are there?
I don't know.
Are there other? Are there places where you allow yourself to say gamble more high stakes, but in maybe a less positive EV way, or are you kind of dialed in where it's just so hard for you to get it in bad?
When I'm with Jeff Ma in Vegas, I'll play craps with him. I don't play I don't push as hard as he does, but I'll say the bet the process Calcutta for sports other than golf. I think, my EV is fairly neutral. I still think it's slightly positive, and I think my drafting strategy is positive EV for sure. But it's everybody going off basically the same information. It's just kind of fun. So
yeah,
clearly, I mean, I enjoy stuff like that still. Yeah.
For people who don't know, I mean, I conceptually understand Calcuttas, but could you explain it to people just how those work? Because whenever I hear you guys talk about it, it does sound like lots of fun. Sure.
It's simply put an auction draft where payouts are determined by some sort of structure you determine beforehand. It could be as simple as, you could have a Calcutta where the winner of a golf tournament or a game with, winner takes all, right? But you bid on all these different various entities, teams, players, whatever. And the payout is a percentage of the total pot. So you don't know what the pot is beforehand. There's no salary cap, no budget or anything like that. And so there's a lot of sort of game theory in the sort of auctioning process in terms of, how aggressively to bid early, middle, late. You have to, because the value you get is based on the prices that all the other entities go for, because that determines the total pot. So I think it's fascinating. I had never done a Calcutta before last year, and now I'm like obsessed with them.
Yeah. And it seems like the strategy can just, change from Calcutta to Calcutta. Like, I feel like it would be hard to do Calcutta content, right? Like how to even understand how you would go about being good at those,
I have some theories. I believe there is a strictly dominant strategy, but
okay. All right. Is that we're going to be able to find an article about that on Unabated?
Maybe. I think I've said it before. I mean, own the first, unless you're undercapitalized, you need to own the first team. Like you will never, if you bid properly and you own the first team, the worst case scenario is going to be that you own the entire Calcutta and all your friends will hate you, but you'll have an EV of 0.
Right. So it just ends right there.
Yeah. Problem is, if everybody goes in with this strategy, then suddenly the Calcutta becomes worth $1 gazillion. And then, that's kind of what's happened with the
prisoner's dilemma type of situation.
Sorry.
Prisoner's dilemma type of situation there.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it does. I think there's some wrinkles you could throw into it as well if you wanted to sort of make it a little more strategic in terms of like, if you bid on a team, if you win a team, you can't bid on the next team or something like that, right? So that would disincentivize it a little bit. But I think without a sort of salary cap or budget, certainly someone well capitalized is going to be an advantage. Kind of like a poker table, right? If you have a bigger chip stack, you can bully people around.
All right. The chat is getting restless, Brian. Our first chat way back at 8:03 was, who's the golf plays this week? Mark just came in here, says PGA picks this week. They're sick of this high level sports betting talk. They do just want to know the answers to the test, Rufus. Brian and Rufus, do you guys have any takes on the Honda Classic here?
I have my exposures up for tomorrow.
Who are we heavy on?
We're heavy on your guy. I'm nervous that Rufus is gonna be like, that's the worst bet ever. I got some decent amount of Ian Poulter.
Ian Poulter. I forgot he was
man.
associated with my brand.
Was it the Honda
Tommy
Classic a few
Fleetwood?
years ago? Tommy Fleetwood. So I actually don't even know who I'm on. I'd have to ask my brother that. I can pull up a spreadsheet and see, but
And betting is going to be different than DFS, obviously.
Of
There's
course.
salaries and ownership and all sorts of things. And I did do ownership this week. If you guys want it, it's free on my site, so have at it.
Well, I mean, we do only have here a little less than 10 minutes, but as is tradition here, I figure why we have Rufus, we might as well just build a PGA lineup here for the people. Our last one, Brad, we actually had a sweat heading into Sunday on our last one.
Yeah, so I had the 11th best lineup according to Nelson Adcock going into Sunday, and I finished 505th. So that tells you how our Sunday went.
Yeah, that was not good.
That was like a bottom 1% outcome.
Rufus, do you still dabble at all in PGA DFS or strictly sports betting right now?
I haven't. I did it for a few years, and I realized that I was kind of in a way chasing my own steam, and it was. I'm convinced that my best, like I'd be better off essentially fading my projections in the GPPs.
Use your DFS as a hedge book to your sports bets.
Yeah,
that's funny because that is how I come up with a lot of my stuff. Is I dive into specific betting markets and notice some differences and adjust from there. So
I just noticed and maybe I was overreacting to like a bad year in DFS, but that essentially all the guys that I shared value on, there was a ton, they ended up being really, really highly owned generally. And, yeah.
If DFS locked earlier, it'd be perfect for you. Because then you could just lock all your lineups and then bet. And you get best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to do it. I mean, if you told me Ian Poulter's popping in your stuff.
Well, then that's my pick.
No, I took it. You have the rest of your exposures. I have nothing.
Okay. Well, then, all right. Who are we going next? Me or Rufus?
Yeah, you go next.
All right. Let's throw in Fleetwood. I'll jinx my lineups. I'll jinx my DFS lineups.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Sometimes you use this lineup to hedge against your 150 set.
But I didn't do that last week, and we did good. So you gotta keep it rolling.
Yeah, it's always a moving target here. Now, Rufus, I know you're not in the DFS salaries, but it's literally just whoever you want. We're just bullshitting around here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pull up my little sheet with my numbers here. So.
And while he's doing that, Pete, we had a problem on Twitter.
Yeah.
A lot of dupe me bros out there. I don't know if you saw.
Oh, I meant to ask you. I didn't even get to check how many people had duped us.
There was like 3 or 4 because we were doing so well up until Sunday that like 3 or 4 people tweeted their lineups at us. They did make one pivot. It seemed like though. It didn't seem like there was an actual dupe. We can't prove it, but people are actually watching this show and copying our lineups that we're just making up on the spot.
Oh my God,
here's the rule, guys. You can dupe us 5 out of 6. You can't dupe us 6 out of 6. And then that way, if our lolz portfolio does well, one of us should, have a really nice day. But no 6 of 6 dupes. That's not nice.
Well, it's just bad for everybody.
I know, exactly.
We don't want them to dupe us.
We really, really, really negative EV strategy.
All right.
They do it anyways.
Who do you like this week? Could be in a vacuum. Doesn't have to be price sensitive. We'll make it work.
I like Cameron Young.
Ooh, okay.
I mean, he's pretty far down there. He's been playing quite well.
Okay. He had a good week last week, right?
He did.
I got 7%.
Okay.
You have him projected at 7%?
No, I have him in 7% of my lineups.
Oh, okay.
Of my 150.
What do you have his ownership projected at, Brian?
I don't have that. Oh wait, yeah, I do. I have him at 12.6%. So he looks like he's about the 12th highest owned.
Okay.
According to mine, so that means he's gonna be pretty popular.
Just real quick.
Where's a guy like Johnny Vegas priced?
He should be pretty low. Well, this is a pretty weak field though. Yeah, 8,500. Okay.
I mean, I would think I'd like him.
All right.
Let's say you can pick for me, Rufus, because
He's
I do
also
not
at
have
12.
a sheet.
Okay. So are we alternating? Sorry, I didn't.
No.
No, we're there's. I am
We have-
glad to not have to ruin this.
It's a joint effort. We have 7,700 average salary left, so we are probably going to need to go down here, guys.
Yeah, we're gonna have to save some money here with a sub. I don't know, 7,500 guy.
What do you think about? And I'm not making this my pick. What do you think about Chase Seaford this week?
He Monday qualified, right?
He's compared to his salary 6,400.
Make him 639 to 1 to win.
Well, I like those odds.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah.
He's at 6,400. He doesn't have to win, but a top 20.
There's got to be better value. There's got to be better value there.
Okay.
What's like a guy like here? What's someone like Brendan Steele or something like that?
Steele is 7,200.
7,200.
Okay.
So if we did Steele at 72, that would put us up with 8,200 remaining. Gets you up to like the Woodland, Knox, Buzenhoit, Moore tier.
Mm-hmm.
Who do we like? Do we like anyone up in this range? This is don't dupe me territory.
This is don't dupe me territory.
Let's see.
What about Denny? I kind of like Denny McCartney. I know that's probably giving
Knox
him
is only
salary.
8,100. Wait, what do I have him at? Yeah, I have him at 86 to 1.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much salary. We could drop down from Fleetwood, but
I like. I've already fallen in love with Fleetwood in this lineup, Brian.
Okay, all right.
I think Woodland and Knox are around. I have them right around the same.
Okay.
Woodland 75 to 1, Knox 86 to 1.
So
Brian, let's break some ties with ownership here.
Okay, Woodland 6%. Who's the other one? Knox.
Yeah.
Knox at 8.5.
Okay, so Woodland's lower.
Gary Woodland, yeah. Expect a +6 on day one. Could easily happen with that guy.
Hey, we'll ride. So look, if you're building this exact lineup, Knox is fair play. You cannot roll out Gary Woodland to round this out in yours, and we will three-way chop this for $1 million. Rufus, how does that sound?
Sounds good to me.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on, taking some time away from the glorious pines there in Montana. Obviously, Unabated. Check you out on Twitter at Rufus Peabody. Anything else you'd like to plug while you're here?
Just at the Process Podcast, unabated.com.
There you go, Brian. Anything from you?
Brick 75. Oh, we went live on Twitch.
Oh, yeah. We did. We're switching it up. We had been simulcasting to both my channel and Brian's YouTube. We're going to pivot that to my channel and Brian's Twitch. So if we have any Twitch heads, I didn't see any Twitch chatters tonight, but they will come, Brian. If we build it,
I forgot to mention it. Yeah. It's just my name, Brian Hooper.
Brian Hooper.
To use the handle there. My website, I got the PGA up. Obviously, there's no other sports going, so that's all I have on there. And I got a sports betting app. I actually wouldn't mind talking to Rufus on. We don't have any time, but it's just like an overlay, Rufus. So like you upload projections, your own or some site if you pay for Osmos or ETRs or something, and it just overlays the prop number right next to the number on the DraftKings site. So if like 17.5 minus 120 and Osmo has them at 20, like you see that instantly. It just takes a couple seconds. I mean, I'm always trying to make things for myself like way easier.
I think.
And so anyways, people want to check it out.
I think that sounds amazing. I mean, obviously, like, ease of execution is super, super important.
Yeah, I agree. It can get so like, okay, what do I need? And then I got to go to Unabated and then price this, and then I got to go back and then look again, and it's Control F. It can get pretty annoying.
Shout out to Willis for heading over to Twitch to fire off the first ever lolz Twitch comment. Thank you, Willis. Also, one other programming note. At least for sure next week and maybe going forward, I'm going to be gone 2 weeks from that. But Brian and I are contemplating shifting to a later afternoon time slot for lolz. And next week we will for sure be at 4 p.m. Eastern. We have another guest. Once I get that all confirmed and locked in, we'll let you guys know. But thank you guys again for tuning in tonight. Thank you to Rufus, to Brian, everyone hanging out in the chat. Good luck this weekend. We will see you guys next week.